Yesterday, Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa came out and made some comments regarding his ex-head coach Brian Flores, who is currently our defensive coordinator, basically stating how Brian Flores would just call him terrible and stuff like that. And Tua just said, "Hey, Brian Flores was a terrible person to me in my time or with him in Miami. It just wasn't great, wasn't working out." So we knew that Brian Flores was going to have to answer the call during today's media session, which he did in, I think, great fashion. I think he meant every word he said. He had some of the defensive players stand up there with him, basically saying, "Hey, we got your back. We know who you are." And he's built a lot of, relationships over the years with not only players but coaches and stuff like that. He's been coaching in the league for 21 years. Okay, Brian Flores may have had some bumps in the road, but doesn't everybody, right? So we're gonna take a look at this situation. Let's look at exactly what Brian Flores said today at the start of the news conference. So here's what Brian Flores had to say about the situation. He said, "I just want to say, look, I'm genuinely happy for the success that Tua has had, and I really wish him nothing but the best. I think player relationships are very important to me. I think that's kind of the foundation of coaching. I got into coaching because I was impacted as a young guy by my high school coaches, my college coaches, going all the way to Pop Warner. I got into coaching because I wanted to make that same kind of impact, a positive impact, pour into young people, help them become the best versions of themselves. That's really my goal, always in coaching. So I wish nothing but the best to Tua." Now, Tua made headlines on Monday when he referred to Flores as a terrible person on the Dan Lee Batard show with Stugatz, I believe is how you say that. I could be wrong, but when he was asked to compare Flores, who was the Dolphins head coach for Tua's first two seasons prior to being fired in January of 2022, to his current head coach in Mike McDaniel. Keep in mind, Flores, defensive-minded head coach, Mike McDaniels, offensive-minded head coach. Probably two different types of coaching styles, which we'll get to here in the end of the in the video. But here's what Tua said during his interview on the Dan Lee Batard show. He said, "To put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. You are accurate. You are the best, whatever. You are this. You are that. How would that make you feel listening to one or the other?" You see what I'm saying? So, some subtle shots there to Brian Flores, which it makes sense. I completely understand where Tua's coming from. It would suck. It would weigh on a person if you got told you suck at what you're doing, your profession every single day, as compared to, hey, you're killing it. You're doing a great job. Like, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame someday, stuff like that. You'd feel great, right? So I understand where Tua is coming from, but I think we also have to take a look at the other side of this, which again, I'll let you guys know at the end of the video my 2 cents on this situation. But Flores ended up walking up to the podium on Tuesday, flanked by two defensive players for the Vikings, Josh Metellus and Harrison Phillips, who were there in a show of support for their coach. Flores told reporters that their support meant a lot and that he's also received several text messages and support from outside the Vikings facility since Tua's comments. But Flores also showed candor and vulnerability during his media session on Tuesday, admitting that Tua's terrible person comment especially hit him hard. Here's what Flores said. "Look, I'm human. So that hit me in a way that I wouldn't say was positive for me. But at the same time, I've got to use that and say, hey, how can I grow from that? Or how can I be better?" And that's really where I'm at from that standpoint. He went on to say that I think there's things that I can do better for sure, and I've grown in that way. I've tried to apply those things that I can to do better, and the things that I've learned over the last 2 to 3 years. But I'd say over the long haul, I've had a lot of great relationship over my 21-year career here in the NFL. Players, coaches, personnel, equipment, people in the kitchen, really across the board, I've had a lot of great relationships. So I'm going to continue to do that. So I love what I'm hearing out of Flores. Look, we all make mistakes. We all say things we probably wish we wouldn't have in the time. Maybe would have made his head coaching stint there in Miami a little bit better. But again, like I said, we all make those mistakes. Okay, it's how you bounce back. It's how you learn from those that really proves or shows what type of person you are, who you are as a human being. And so I really enjoyed hearing the response from Flores saying, hey, yeah, that hit me hard. That sucks to hear that somebody thinks of me that way. That's not what I intended to happen. Even though that's probably how I was coaching back then. But hey, I've got to learn from that. I've got to be better, and I think I have over the last 2 years. So it's really good. Now, as for the Tua situation, right, or the Tua side of this comment, it's like he basically said, look, how would you feel if you had somebody tell you you suck every day? Probably not great. But how would you feel if somebody told you you're doing a fantastic job every single day? You're for this, you're meant for this, right? You'd probably feel pretty good. And that makes a lot of sense. What people don't understand though is coaches have different ways of coaching, right? Different coaching styles. I've dealt with it my life or in my life during high school sports and stuff like that with different types of coaches. You got the happy-go-lucky, the player coach, right? Or you got the coach that's just plain and simple not a great guy. Okay, he doesn't really care what you have to say. He's gonna pick his favorites and he's gonna play them. That's just how it is. But I think in today's day and age, okay, coaches have to realize that hey, you have to adapt to the player you're coaching, not players, because every single player is different in how they want to be led, right? You got some guys that want to be screamed at, that want to be told, you're awful. That play was horrific. Fix it, or else you're not playing. Otherwise, you got on the other side of the spectrum, you got players that love to, the gratification, stuff like that, consoling. Hey, man, that throw was good, but I think you can do a little bit better on this. Okay. Move your feet a little bit, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. You're kind of building them up a little bit. So there's two different types of coaching, or like multiple different types of coaching, and there's different ways that players want to be led. And I think Tua is a guy that wants to be, you know, not really coddled in a way, but wants to be told that, hey, you're killing it. You're doing a great job because he feeds off that energy, whereas other players might feed off the negative energy, which is really weird, but that's just how it is. So coaches nowadays have to find a way to uh, just kind of mold or change their coaching styles player by player, team by team, and really fix it that way. And I think that's what Brian Flores is basically saying. Like, look, these last couple of years, I've really, grown, or I've really learned how to get better at these things, and I've built incredible, relationships over these 21 years that I've been in the NFL. So he's definitely been through the gauntlet. And back in the day when he was at the New England Patriots, is probably a little bit different, right? 20 years ago compared to what it is today, sorry to say it, but today a lot of people are a lot softer. Okay, that's just it's a fact. Okay, that's not an opinion. It is 1,000% a fact. People are a lot more soft these days because of social media, our cell phones, and stuff like that. But back in the day, you could be cussed out, and guess what? You're probably gonna go have the best game of your career. It's just we have to figure out a happy medium. I'm glad that Brian Flores decided to answer it the way he did, and I'm sure he means every word of that. As for Tua, I'm sure he's past the situation. It's done and over with. It was 2 years ago. He's got a new system. He's a little bit more happy because he has the type of coach that he wants, right? He has the guy that wants to give him that positive reinforcement, not so much the negative reinforcement. That's because that's how he wants to be coached, right? I think it's simple in that fact. So I want to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. Drop a like. Let me know what you thought about the Flores Tua situations, the comments, the responses, and stuff like that. Also, like I said before, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be much appreciated. Have a great rest of the night, folks, and Skull Vikes.